Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. In today's video, I'll be using Honeybee Stamps Happy Hearts paper collection. I'll also be using an assortment of stamps and dies from the Happy Hearts release, but all of the cards will feature pattern paper from the Happy Hearts paper pad. I was originally planning on having several smaller videos, but I decided to put all 7 cards together in one video. So throughout the video, you will notice my nail polish and shirt sleeves change. For card design number 1, I selected 2 pattern papers. I have a blue and green stripe paper. I cut 2 3/4 inch strips, and I'll adhere those on the top and bottom of some dark teal cardstock. In the center, I'm adding some blue pattern paper that has white speckles all over it. I'll put some ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. All of my cards in this video are American Standard A2 size, 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. This card will be featuring the Lovely Layers Pansy. I used some teal cardstock for the flower layers. I have a darker teal and a lighter teal. I'll add a little bit of extra color to the edge of the petals. For the lighter teal, I'm using All That Jazz ink color by Catherine Pooler. For the darker teal, I'm using the Daydream ink color. My card will feature 1 large flower and 2 small blooms. If you've never used Honeybee Stamps Lovely Layer die sets before, I highly recommend them. The flowers are some of my favorites. They have beautiful etched detail and they're very easy to layer together. On the website, you can always check out the layering guide if you're unsure which pieces go together. For adhesive, I'm using Honeybee Stamps Precision Tip Glue. When I'm putting glue on the back of each of the pieces, I'm not adding it all over the back. That way I can curl up each of the petals for some dimension. Once I have all of the petals put together on the larger flower, I'll add the center, and I cut out that piece from some yellow cardstock. Now I'll start working on the buds, and these are easier to put together since there's only 2 layers for the flower. I have the lighter teal on the back side of the flower and the darker teal on the front. Next, I'll add the stem and the leaf to the 2 buds. Then I also cut out 3 of the leaves to put behind the larger flower. I'll add 1 of the buds to the upper left-hand corner of the card, and I did trim off the bottom portion of the stem since it'll be covered up by that large flower. For the 3 leaves, I am putting some foam dimension just on the very end of each of the leaves, and then I'll glue down the rest. I'll lay down the large flower without adhesive while I get the placement correct for the 3 leaves. Then I'll put glue on the back of the flower, adhere that in place. With spring right around the corner, I'm looking forward to seeing all the beautiful flowers, including some pretty pansies. For the last flower, I did put some foam dimension on the back. I'll put glue on the stem, tuck that stem underneath the large pansy flower, and adhere it in the lower right-hand corner. For a sentiment, I've already stamped and cut this out. Friends are one of the special ways that God takes care of us. I love this sentiment. I did put some foam dimension on the back side. I used Honeybee Stamps thin foam strips. For embellishments, I'm adding some of the new Crystal Glimmer enamel stickers. They're clear and they have glitter sealed inside, so they're super sparkly. For a final finishing touch, I'll add some Nuvo glitter drops to the center of the flower. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. The new Lovely Layer Pansy die set is just beautiful. Now moving on to card design number 2. I will be using a card sketch for inspiration. This is from Sugar Pea Designs. It's Sugar Sketch number 51. And if you are interested in any of the sketches I use in this video, I share all of that information on my coordinating blog post. That link is provided in the description box below, or you can simply head over to KristieMarcotte.com. For this card, I'll really be focusing on the beautiful pattern paper. I have a red plaid paper for the background, this lovely floral paper for that larger piece, and a fun geometric light orange pattern for that narrow strip. I'll layer everything on some red cardstock. I did round the left top and bottom corners on the pattern paper and that red cardstock layer. For the narrow strip that goes across the card, using some green cardstock, Matches the pretty greens on that floral paper. I cut the left side at an angle and adhered it in place using some ATG tape. For the circle element on the sketch, I cut out a stitch circle die cut from some vellum, but I did trim off the very bottom. And I'll be adhering it right above that green strip. Instead of adding an image of that circle, this is where I'll be featuring the sentiment. And I've already stamped and cut out the sentiment. Hello, my friend. I used the outline die and cut out a second piece, layered the two together so I have the red cardstock drop shadow showing. And I will pop that up using some foam dimension. I'll first adhere the sentiment onto the vellum circle. Then I can flip over that vellum circle, add adhesive on the back just where that sentiment is. That way the glue won't show through on the vellum. For the banner in the upper left-hand corner, I'm using the same red cardstock. I'll cut a fishtail on the bottom. Then on the right side, I'll cut it in slightly at an angle, flip over that piece, and do the same thing on the other side. Now I've created this fun little whimsical banner. I'll adhere that in place using some glue. To finish off the card, I'll add a few of the Happy Hearts pearl stickers. I'll put 3 around the sentiment and 2 in the upper left-hand corner. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. For card design number 3, the card sketch is from Sugar Pea Designs. This is Sugar Sketch number 9. I selected 4 different pattern papers for this card, only showing 3 of them at the moment. I have this beautiful pink polka dot paper for the background, a white and pink diagonal stripe for that strip on the left side, and then some of the beautiful strawberry pattern paper. I'll layer everything on some red cardstock. Before adhering the strawberry piece down, I am putting a scrap piece of cardstock on the very right side, and that'll help it stay nice and level. Once I have that piece adhered, I'll layer the background on some red cardstock, put some ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. Generally for my cardstock layers, I add an additional 1/8 of an inch to the measurements listed on the card sketch. Instead of the oval that's indicated on the card sketch, I will be changing that to a circle, and I cut out a stitch circle die cut from some white shimmer cardstock. For the narrow banner that goes across the card, I'm using another pattern paper, this lovely green that has heart scribbles all across it. I cut a fishtail on the left side. Since there's all these different layers where that banner will be attached, I'm putting foam dimension on the very left and right side, and I'm also adding a small scrap piece of cardstock on the left side. I'll remove the release paper on the foam dimension, put glue on the rest of the banner, and adhere it in place. Trying to make sure to get it nice and straight across the card. Before adhering the stitch circle die cut, I'll also add a couple of pieces of scrap cardstock. And I've already trimmed those pieces down so they'll fit right underneath that circle on the left side. I'll adhere the circle die cut in place using some glue. For image on the card, I cut out a couple of strawberries using the Lovely Layers strawberry die set. I used some red cardstock, same color that I used for the layers on the card, and I'll add just a little extra red color to the edge of the strawberries using the Rouge ink color from Catherine Pooler. I cut out the leafy tops of the strawberries from some green cardstock, and I'll adhere those in place using some glue. I love all the extra detail on the strawberries. It has the etch mark for the seeds and little etch lines for the leafy tops. Once I have the strawberries assembled, I'll put glue on the back and adhere both of them on the stitch circle die cut. Add the large strawberry down first and the smaller strawberry to the right, slightly above it. For a sentiment, I've already stamped and cut out the word hi. This is from the new Best of Everything stamp set. Lots of great sentiments that you can use year-round. I'll add a little bit of glue and adhere the sentiment underneath the strawberries on the right. Decided this card also needed a banner. Using the same red cardstock, I'll cut out a small one and adhere it in the upper right-hand corner. To finish off the card, I'll add some of the Happy Hearts gem stickers. Put 3 in the lower right-hand corner and 2 in the upper left-hand corner. Honeybee Stamps always has nice embellishments, and I like how the colors coordinate with the paper pads. So there is my finished card, and again I did make 2 using this design. For card design number 4, the card sketch is from MFT. This is number 227. For the background of the card, I selected one of the black and white designs that's included in the paper pad. This would be a fun pattern to do some ink blending, but I decided to keep it as the black and white. For the large banner on the left side of the card, this pattern paper is from the Gingham Happy Hearts collection. I cut a fishtail on the bottom and layered it on some black cardstock. For the wider strip that goes across the card, I'm using some golden yellow cardstock. I'll adhere that in place using some ATG tape. For the narrow strip that's on the left side, I'm using some black cardstock. And I did put some of the tear tape on the back side to adhere it in place. Next, I'll add the yellow gingham banner on the left side, making sure both of those narrow strips in the background are still showing. Layer the background piece on some black cardstock and then again on that same golden yellow cardstock. Put some ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. I really like the look of the black and white with the pop of yellow. And I think having the 2 different colors of cardstock layers really adds some extra detail to the card. For the sentiment on this card, I did some hot foiling, and I did that off screen just to save time on the video. I used the new Foil Script Love set. There are lots of great sentiments on this set that you can use year round. The sentiment is Big Hugs. I used some black shimmer cardstock and some gold glimmer foil. I'll put some foam dimension on the back side, and this is Honeybee Stamps thin foam strips in black. I did trim them down in order to fit them underneath the sentiment. I'll remove the release paper and adhere the sentiment onto the banner on the left side of the card. I'll add a couple of flowers in the lower left-hand corner, and I cut these out from the same yellow gold cardstock color. The flowers and leaves are from the Whimsical Spring die set. For the center of the larger flower, I used some white glitter cardstock. And for both of the leaves, I used some gold mirror cardstock. Tuck those leaves underneath each of the flowers and adhere all of them in place using some glue. For the center of the smaller flower, I'll add some Nuvo glitter drops. It's the Gold Coast color. But first I'll use a black pen and add a small dot to the center of each of the flowers. And this is an easy way to add just a little extra detail to the flowers and also tie in with the black elements on the card. And it's much easier to put that black dot down before adding the Nuvo glitter drops. For a final finishing touch, I'll add a few black enamel dots in the upper right-hand corner. And these are from the Essential Enamel Sticker Set. There's white, black, and a dark charcoal color. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I love all the shine from the foil, so pretty. For card design number 5, the card sketch is from Cards TV. This is sketch number 2. The strawberry pattern paper is some of my favorite, so I really wanted to feature it again on a card. I have 3 different pattern papers, the red plaid for the background, a green tone-on-tone with X and O's all over it, and then the beautiful strawberry pattern paper. Instead of layering the strawberry pattern paper on solid cardstock, I'll be layering it on the green tone-on-tone pattern paper. I'll lay out a couple of the pieces to make sure I get them evenly placed. Then I'll adhere them down, leaving about 1/8 of an inch around each of those pieces. Once I have all of those adhered down, I'll put some ATG tape on the back and layer this piece on the red plaid cardstock. Then I'll add my card front onto a card base. I will still be using a little bit of cardstock, but I thought I would change it up a bit and use the pattern paper for those background layers. For the small square, I used some of the pink polka dot paper and I'll layer it on some red cardstock. Adhere that in place, and this is where I'll add some of the strawberry images. I ran out of ATG tape here, so I did need to do a quick refill. I cut out 3 different strawberries, and I've already adhered those together. I'll also be adding one of the white flowers, and this is included on the Lovely Layers strawberry set. I used some pretty white shimmer cardstock for the flower. I'll adhere the 2 larger strawberries down first using some glue. And I did put some foam dimension on the back of the smaller strawberry, and I'll adhere that in the lower right-hand corner of the polka dot paper. Then I'll add the flower onto the largest strawberry. The sentiment, I've already stamped and cut this out. Your friendship keeps me going. Using the outline die, I cut out a second piece from some red cardstock, glued those 2 pieces together so I have the red drop shadow, and I will pop up the sentiment using some of the thin foam dimension. Then to finish up the card, I'll add a few of the green pearl stickers around the strawberry images. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I love how this card turned out. So fun to have strawberry pattern paper and also strawberry images. For card design number 6, the card sketch is from Cards TV. This is sketch number 42. No strawberries on this card. I selected a soft orange plaid pattern paper with lots of small hearts. I'm also adding 2 pattern paper strips to the center of the card. I have a darker tone-on-tone pattern for a wider strip. This is 1.5 inches, and the other is 1 inch as indicated on the card sketch. I layered the background on a soft orange cardstock color, put my card front onto a card base. Next, I'll add a stitched oval die cut, and I did cut this out from some white shimmer cardstock. I'll adhere that in place using some glue. This card will feature one of the adorable critters from the Heart Hugs die set. I cut out the smaller bear from some gray cardstock, and I did add just a little bit of brown ink all around the outside of the bear. The bear will be holding a red heart. For the eyes and the nose, I cut these out of black cardstock. I'll add just a small drop of Barely Art glue. Then I'll use an embellishment wand to pick up those teeny tiny pieces and adhere them in place. I'm using a white gel pen to add a few highlights to the bear and also the large red heart. Then I'll put some glue on the back and adhere the bear onto the oval die cut. Since the bottom of the critters goes straight across, I thought I would add a little border with some of the smaller hearts from the same set. I used the same red cardstock and cut out 5 small hearts. To adhere them in place, I'll add the outside 2 first, then I'll add the next 2 hearts, and finally the very center heart last. And I'm using Barely Art glue to adhere them in place. For a sentiment, I've already stamped and cut this out. This is Big Hugs. It seemed like the perfect sentiment to go with all the hearts. I used the outline die to cut out the second piece from the same soft orange cardstock. Layer those 2 pieces together so I have that slight drop shadow. I love to do this. It adds just that little extra detail and makes the sentiments pop. I'll adhere the sentiment to the right of my bear. For embellishments, I'm using some of the Happy Hearts gem stickers. And final finishing touch, I'll use the white gel pen and add a few highlights to the small red hearts. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I love the critters on this set, absolutely adorable. So I will be using another critter on my final card, and some more strawberries. I have 2 pattern papers, a light blue paper with a quilted design for the very background, and I'm also adding a 1 inch strip of a wood grain, and this is from the Grain and Grunge collection, another favorite of mine. I'll add both of those onto some white cardstock, put my card front onto a card base. For this card, I'll be using several new die sets. I have the Terracotta planters, Lovely Layers strawberries, and also the Heart Hugs. I used 2 different shades of gray cardstock for the planter. Just glue those 2 pieces together, and I did add a little bit of gray ink to the edge of the planter for some extra detail. I'll first glue down the leaves from the strawberry set, just holding that planter down so I can get the placement correct. Now I'll start assembling one of the adorable critters. This card will be featuring this sweet little fox. There are a few more pieces for the fox, but it's still really easy to assemble. The eyes and the nose are teeny tiny, so it does help to have an embellishment wand to pick those up and add just the smallest amount of glue. The fox has the sweet little arms to hold an item, but this fox won't be holding anything. Instead, it'll be hiding inside the pot. Although it's not very good at hiding since its entire head will be sticking out. Since you'll mostly see the head and the neck, I will use my scissors to trim off the lower body of the fox. I'll put glue on the back of the fox, adhere it in place. Then I'll put glue on the back of the pot and adhere it right on top of the little fox. So now its little head is popping out of the pot. Now I'll assemble some strawberries and leaves. I cut out the larger background piece. I'll attach the red strawberries, also the white flowers. Then I'll add the yellow centers to each of the flowers and add the leafy tops to each of the strawberries. I like how the background piece has the little curly Q from the strawberry vine. And I did cut out a couple more of those curly Q vines. Once I have all the leafy tops of the strawberries attached, I won't keep that full piece together. Instead, I'll use my scissors to trim out the strawberries, the flowers, and that little curly Q vine. The Lovely Layer strawberry set does have individual pieces for the flowers and some of the other strawberries, but I knew I wanted the curly Q vine, so I thought it would be easier to just assemble the one piece and trim them down. I also cut out a second background piece with the leaves and trimmed out 3 of those leaves to add to the front. Now I'll start adding the leaves, the flowers, the vines, and the strawberries to the front of the pot, trying to make sure not to cover up the little fox. And sorry about not having my card centered on the screen. I didn't realize I had pushed it up so high, but it is still mostly on screen, so you can see all the different pieces that I'm adding to the pot. A few of the pieces I did pop up with some foam dimension, and the rest I adhered down using some glue. For the strawberries and the leaves that I trimmed, and you can see the end of the stem, I made sure to put them in an area where I would cover them up with another piece, whether it was a flower or another strawberry. For the curly Q vines, I put one on the left side, tucked one underneath the fox's head on the top, and I'll put the final on the right side underneath the strawberry. I have just a few more pieces to add. One more strawberry and a final flower. For the sentiment, I've already stamped and cut this out, Thinking of You, and this is from the Best of Everything set. This is a fun set. Several of the sentiments, when you use the coordinating die, it cuts out the words separately. I'll adhere the sentiment in the lower left-hand corner. Then I'll use a white gel pen, add a few highlights to my fox. Just a few polka dots on the ears and the cheeks, and a little dot to the center of the eyes. I'll also add a few highlights to the pot. For a final finishing touch, I'll add a few of the Happy Heart pearl stickers around the sentiment. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I love how this card turned out. Definitely my favorite from the whole set. Now here's another look at the 14 cards I made using Honeybee Stamps Happy Hearts paper pad, and also several of the stamps and dies from the Happy Hearts release. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links provided in the description box below. There are so many fun products included in this release, beautiful paper collections, fun dies and stamps. In this video, I didn't use any of the stencils, but there are a couple of stencils available as well. It's always hard to choose a favorite product from the releases, but I will admit the critters in the heart hugs are pretty cute. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.